A single mother arrived at the clinic with her sick baby and no money. But when the doctor examined him, he shouted, "This baby isn't yours," and everyone was shocked. The sun beat down hard that morning, as if it wanted to burn everything it touched. Anna walked quickly down the dusty street, sweat plastering her old t-shirt to her body. In her arms, Luis, her 6-month-old baby, lay still, too still. The little one's head hung limply against her chest, and his breathing was a faint thread, as if life was slipping away from him. Anna clenched her teeth, her eyes red from crying so much, her legs trembling with exhaustion. She hadn't slept in 2 days, hadn't eaten anything but a stale piece of bread she'd found on the table. All that mattered was Luis. "We're almost there, my little one, almost there," she murmured, though he didn't hear her. His tiny feet dangled lifelessly, and the fever had turned his skin scorching hot. Anna had no money, not a single coin in the torn pockets of her pants. But she'd heard that at the public clinic, the one at the end of the neighborhood, they sometimes helped for free if you begged hard enough. The clinic was an old building, its walls peeling with a cheap, disinfectant smell that stung the nose. Inside, the heat was suffocating, and the ceiling fan buzzed like a trapped fly, barely stirring the air. People were everywhere. An old woman coughing in a corner, a guy with a bandaged leg groaning in pain, a young mother with 2 screaming kids clinging to her legs. Anna pushed through them, Luis pressed to her chest, and reached the counter where a sour-faced receptionist chewed gum. "Please, my baby's sick," Anna said, her voice breaking. "He's not breathing right. He's got a fever. I don't know what to do." The receptionist didn't even look up. She kept typing on an old computer as if Anna were a mosquito buzzing in her ear. "Name and ID," she snapped curt. "Ana Maria Torres. I don't have an ID. I lost it months ago. Please, it's urgent," Anna begged, lifting Luis a little so she could see him. The baby's eyes were closed, his mouth half open, a dribble of drool running down his chin. The woman finally glanced up, frowned, and clicked her tongue. "And the insurance? The money? This isn't free, lady. If you can't pay, go wait with the rest." Anna felt the floor shift under her. "I don't have anything, I swear. My son's dying. Look at him. Please help me." Tears streamed down her face, and her voice turned into a desperate scream. "He's my baby. Don't let him die." The receptionist rolled her eyes. "Always the same. Wait over there. See if someone wants to bother with you. But don't cry all over me. I'm not a tissue." She pointed to a row of broken chairs at the back, where people sweated and grumbled. Anna stumbled to a chair, her heart in her throat. She sat Luis on her lap and touched his forehead. It was burning. "Hold on, my love, hold on," she whispered, rocking him gently. She looked around, searching for a kind face, someone who'd help. The coughing old woman gave her a sideways glance and muttered something under her breath. The guy with the bandaged leg huffed, another one begging for free. What a pain. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Anna felt time slipping through her fingers like sand. Luis didn't move, just wheezed faintly. She wiped the sweat from his little face with the dirty sleeve of her t-shirt, singing him a soft, made-up song. "My brave little one, my king. You're gonna be okay, right? Mommy's here." But the words cracked and fear squeezed her chest like an invisible hand. Suddenly, a young man came out of a door at the back. He wore a faded white coat, his hair messy, dark circles under his eyes. It was Dr. Marcos, the doctor on duty, looking as worn out as the patients. He spoke to the receptionist, who pointed at Anna with an annoyed gesture. He walked over, hands in his pockets, and sized her up. "What's wrong with the kid?" he asked, his voice hoarse but not as harsh as the receptionist's. Anna jumped up, nearly tripping. "Doctor, help me, please. He's got a high fever. He's not breathing right. I don't know what's wrong. I don't have money, but I'm begging you, don't let him die." The words tumbled out, and tears wet her chin. Marcos sighed, scratching the back of his neck. Calm down. Let me see him. He leaned toward Luis, touched his forehead, and frowned. He's really hot. How long has he been like this? Since yesterday, doctor. It was just fever at first, but today he started breathing funny. He won't eat, won't cry, nothing. Anna explained, her hands shaking as she held the baby. Okay, come with me. I can't promise anything, but I'll check him out, he said, turning toward the consultation door. Anna followed him like a dog after its owner, her heart pounding in her ears. The consultation room was small, with an old stretcher, a desk piled with papers, and a damp smell clinging to the walls. Marcos pointed to the stretcher. Put him there. Anna obeyed, laying Luis carefully on the worn sheet. The baby didn't fuss, just let out a weak whimper. Dr. Marcos's shout still echoed in the consultation room when Anna collapsed onto the stretcher, clutching Luis like someone might rip him away any second. The baby, weak and feverish, barely stirred against her chest, but she held him tight. Hands shaking, eyes wild, the air was thick, heavy, as if the heat and fear had mixed into a suffocating stew. The chubby nurse, still at the door, watched with pursed lips, while murmurs from the waiting room slipped in like an annoying buzz. What are you saying, doctor? He's my son, I swear to God. Anna screamed, her voice shattered. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with sweat, dripping in salty drops onto Luis's little head. Marcos crossed his arms, breathing deep to keep his cool. Look at him close, lady. The skin, the eyes, the hair. He doesn't look like you. You gonna tell me that doesn't seem weird? His tone was steady, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes, like he wasn't fully sure of what he was accusing. He's mine. I had him. I raised him, Anna insisted, jumping up. The movement made Luis let out a faint whimper, and she rocked him quick, whispering, "Easy, my love, easy." Then she glared at the doctor with fury. "Why are you doing this? My baby's sick. Help him instead of talking crap." The nurse stepped forward, hands on hips. "Hey, don't talk to the doctor like that. This stinks, and I say we call the police right now." Her voice was a growl, her eyes glinting with suspicion. Anna spun toward her like a cornered animal. "No! Don't call anyone. You're not taking him from me." Panic clawed up her throat, and her breathing turned into fast gasps. She looked at Dr. Marcos, pleading, "Please, doctor, don't listen to her. He's my son, I swear on my life." Marcos raised a hand, slicing the air. "Enough. No one's calling anybody yet. But this isn't over." He scratched his short beard, thinking fast. "We're doing a blood test. If he's yours, the DNA won't lie. If he's not, well, we'll see." He glanced at the nurse. "Rosa, get the stuff to draw blood, now." The nurse, Rosa, huffed, but shuffled out, dragging her feet. Anna stood still, heart pounding so loud she felt it in her ears. "A test? What test? For what?" she asked, voice trembling. "To know the truth," Marcos said, blunt. "If he's yours, no problem. If not, someone's got to explain where this kid came from." He stepped to the stretcher and pointed at Luis. "But first, we stabilize him. He's bad off, and I'm not letting him die while we argue." Anna nodded, biting her lip till it nearly bled. "Yes, doctor, save him. Do whatever you have to, but don't take him from me." The words came out between sobs, and she wiped her face with the dirty sleeve of her t-shirt. Marcos grunted and and moved fast. He pulled an old but working oxygen mask from a drawer and hooked it to a tank that looked like it had seen better days. "Put this on his face," he ordered, handing the mask to Anna. She obeyed, shaking, fitting it carefully over Luis's nose and mouth. The baby didn't react, but the hiss of oxygen cut through the silence. "Will this help him?" Anna asked, eyes locked on Luis's chest, rising and falling a bit easier. "For now, yeah. But he needs antibiotics and fluids. I'll get what we've got," Marcos said, and bolted out of the room without looking back. Anna stayed alone with Luis, perched on the stretcher, stroking his hot little hand. "You're gonna be okay, my little one. Mommy's not leaving you," she whispered, though the doctor's words spun in her head like a poisonous echo. "What did he mean, you're not mine?" "Of course you're mine," she muttered, kissing his forehead. But something in her voice sounded fragile, like part of her was starting to waver. Rosa came back after a bit, carrying a metal tray with syringes, test tubes, and alcohol-soaked cotton balls. "Here, hand me the kid," she said, tone sour. Anna glared at her like she might bite. "I'm not letting him go. Do what you need to, but I'm holding him." "Fine, but don't move," Rosa snapped, stepping closer with a syringe. She pricked Luis's tiny arm, and he didn't even cry, just wrinkled his face for a second. The blood came slow, dark, filling a little tube. Then Rosa pressed a cotton ball on it and looked at Anna. "Now you, give me your arm." "Why do you need me?" Anna asked, pulling back. "To compare, woman. If you've got nothing to hide, no problem, right?" Rosa said, eyebrow raised. Anna swallowed hard but stretched out her arm. The jab hurt more than she expected, and she shut her eyes as the nurse drew the blood. "Done," Rosa grumbled, labeling the tubes. "Now we wait. But I'll tell you this, if this goes bad, no amount of tears will save you." "He's my son," Anna shouted, but Rosa was already walking out, shaking her head. Time crawled like an old cart. Marcos came back with a bag of saline and a box of ampicillin powder. "This is what we've got. Not much, but we'll try," he said, prepping a needle. He stuck it in the back of Luis's little hand and hooked up the IV, which started dripping slow. "If it's an infection, this should bring the fever down in a few hours." "And if it doesn't?" Anna asked, voice small. "Then it's worse." "But don't think about that now," Marcos replied, though his face didn't hold much hope. Anna watched the drip, counting each drop like they were seconds of life for Luis. "Thank you, doctor," she murmured, almost out of strength. "You don't understand. He's all I've got." Marcos glanced at her for a second but said nothing. He sat on a rickety chair by the desk and started scribbling in an old notebook. Silence settled again, broken only by the oxygen's hiss and the hallway noise. Outside, the waiting room was a mess. People wouldn't shut up, their voices sneaking through the cracked door. "She stole him for sure. Did you see how she flipped out?" a shrill woman said. "Poor kid, who knows where she got him?" another answered. "I say lock her up already. Those crazies are dangerous," a man growled. Anna clenched her teeth, itching to go out and scream at them all. "Why don't they shut up? They don't know anything," she hissed under her breath, staring at Luis. But the doctor's words stayed stuck in her head, and every comment from outside hit like a hammer. An hour passed, maybe 2. Luis stayed the same, the mask fogging with his faint breath. The IV dripped, and the fever seemed to ease a little, but not much. Anna didn't budge, didn't eat, didn't ask for water, though her throat scratched dry. She just stared at her baby, stroking his cheek with shaky fingers. Suddenly the door swung open hard. Rosa stormed in, a folder in hand and a bad news face. "Doctor, come here a sec," she said, jerking her head toward the hall. Marcos got up, grumbling. "What now?" "It's about the tests. The lab sent a prelim over the phone," Rosa said, lowering her voice. Anna snapped her head up, heart in her mouth. "What tests? Do they know something?" "Nothing you need to worry about yet." Rosa cut in and marched out with Marcos trailing. Anna was alone again, fear gnawing at her guts. "What are they gonna say? What are they gonna do to me?" she muttered, staring at Luis. "You're my son, my little one. No one's gonna believe me, but I know you're mine." Tears came back and she swallowed them with rage. In the hallway, Marcos and Rosa whispered, "The lab guy says the blood types don't match." Rosa explained, flipping through the folder. She's O positive. The kid's AB negative. That can't be. Marcos frowned. You sure? No mistake? Nope, doctor. They double-checked. And the DNA's on the way, but with this, it's already clear she's not the mom, Rosa said, smirking a little. Damn, Marcos muttered, rubbing his face. This is gonna get ugly. I say we call the police now. That woman's either crazy or a kidnapper. Rosa pushed. Hold off. Let's wait for the full DNA. I don't want to screw her over if there's some explanation, Marcos said, though he didn't sound convinced. They went back to the room and Anna stared at them like they were about to sentence her. What's going on, doctor? What did the lab say? She asked, voice shaking. Marcos took a deep breath, searching for words. For now, nothing solid. We're waiting on more results, but the blood types don't match. That doesn't mean anything final, but it's odd. Odd? He's my son. What does blood matter? I gave birth to him. Anna screamed, jumping up again. Luis shifted, a bit restless, and she soothed him with kisses. Don't look at me like that. I didn't do anything wrong. Calm down, Marco said, raising his hands. No one's accusing you yet, but we need to be sure. I'm sure. He's mine, Anna screeched, tears gushing out. You're not taking him from me. You're not taking him. Rosa rolled her eyes. Keep yelling. See if that makes us believe you. This doesn't look good, lady. Shut up, Anna snapped at her, fists clenched. You don't know anything about me or my son. Enough, both of you, Marcos barked, voice rising. Rosa, get out and let the lab finish. Lady, sit down and take care of the kid. No one's doing anything till we know everything. Rosa stomped out, muttering, and Anna sank back onto the stretcher, drained. Don't take him from me, doctor. He's all I've got, she whispered, staring at Luis with red eyes. Marcos didn't answer. He sat back in the chair, tapping his fingers on the desk, head full of doubts. The wall clock ticked on, slow as punishment, and the room grew heavier with each tick. 2 more hours dragged by. The waiting room had thinned out some, but the rumors kept spreading like wildfire. That woman's nuts, one voice said. Bet she snatched him from somewhere, another added. Anna heard them, and each word stabbed her chest. Marcos pulled a thermometer from a drawer and slipped it under Luis's arm. While it beeped, he asked, What else has happened? Cough? Vomiting? Anything odd? He spoke fast, like he had 1,000 things on his mind. Anna bit her lip, trying to think. No cough, but he threw up a little last night. And today he wouldn't take milk. He just sleeps and breathes like this, all choked. She pointed to Luis's chest, rising and falling with effort. The thermometer beeped. Marcos pulled it out and read, 40 degrees, this is serious. He grabbed a stethoscope and started listening to the baby's chest, moving the cold disc side to side. Anna watched him without blinking, nails digging into her palms. What's wrong with him, doctor? Will he be okay? She asked, her voice quivering. Don't know yet. His lungs sound bad, could be an infection. He needs oxygen and meds, but we don't have much here, Marcos said, not looking at her. He pulled out a small flashlight and shone it into Luis's half-open eyes. He's real weak. Why didn't you bring him sooner? Anna dropped her head, ashamed. I couldn't. I don't have money for a bus. I live far. I walked 2 hours to get here. Tears came again, and she wiped them away angrily. I'm doing what I can, doctor. I'm alone with him. Marcos muttered something low but didn't reply. He kept checking the baby, feeling his stomach, his thin legs, his neck. Anna stayed, quiet, watching every move like it was everything. The silence was heavy, broken only by the fan's buzz and Luis's raspy breathing. Suddenly, Marcos stopped. He was staring at the baby's face, brow furrowed. He ran his fingers over Luis's skin, lighter than Anna's, then lifted an eyelid to see his eyes. Grayish-green, unlike her dark ones. He leaned closer like he couldn't believe what he saw. What's wrong, doctor? Anna asked, a knot in her stomach. He didn't answer right away. He kept looking at the baby, now with confusion and something darker on his face. He touched Luis's fine brown hair while Anna's was black and thick. Then all at once he straightened up and stepped back. "Is this your son?" he snapped, his tone sharp as a knife. Anna blinked, thrown off. "Yes, of course, he's my Luis, my baby." Marcos stared at her, eyes narrowed. "Don't lie. To me, where'd you get this kid?" "What? He's mine, doctor. Why are you saying that?" Anna shouted, her voice rising without meaning to. Her heart hammered so hard she felt it in her throat. He took a deep breath, like he was gathering strength, and then he let it out. He shouted so loud the walls seemed to shake. "This baby isn't yours!" Anna's world stopped. She froze, mouth open, hands in the air. In the hallway, the voices in the waiting room went dead silent. Someone poked their head in. A chubby nurse with a startled face. "What's going on, doctor?" she asked, but Marcos ignored her. Anna shook her head, like she could shake the words out of her ears. "No, no, no! He's my son, I had him. What are you saying?" Tears poured out, and her voice was a desperate screech. Marcos pointed at Luis, still motionless on the stretcher. "Look at him, lady. The skin, the eyes, the hair. He doesn't look like you at all. You gonna tell me that's normal?" His tone was hard, accusing, like he'd already judged her. "He's my baby," Anna insisted, stepping to the stretcher to shield Luis with her arms. "I gave birth to him. I raised him. Don't take him from me, please." But panic raced through her veins, and the doubt in the doctor's eyes was killing her. The nurse waddled in fully, arms crossed. "Doctor, should we call the police? This sounds fishy." In the waiting room, people started murmuring again. Louder. "Bet she stole him," one voice said. "Poor little thing," another chimed in. Anna spun toward them, face soaked. "I didn't steal anything. He's mine, mine," she screamed, but no one believed her. Dr. Marcos watched her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve, and the air filled with a tension that crushed. "Stay still," he ordered, raising a hand. "We're gonna sort this out, but don't lie to me. If this kid isn't yours, someone's gotta know the truth." Anna stared at him, trembling. Luis pressed to her chest. "He's my son," she whispered. But it didn't sound so sure anymore. And in that moment, with everyone's eyes on her, she knew something awful was about to start. Finally, Rosa came back, a paper in hand and a stone-cold face. "Doctor, the DNA's here," she said, handing him the sheet. Marcos read it fast and his eyes widened. He looked at Anna, then Luis, then back at the paper. "Can't be," he mumbled. "What does it say, doctor? Tell me." Anna shouted, jumping up with Luis in her arms. Marcos stared at her, face pale. "The DNA, it doesn't match. This baby isn't yours." Anna's world crumbled. The scream she let out was so loud it rattled the whole clinic, and tears rained down onto Luis's still face. Anna's screams sliced through the air like broken glass. "No, no, no!" she shrieked, clutching Luis to her chest as tears poured down in streams. The paper with the DNA results shook in Dr. Marcos's hand, and Rosa, the nurse, watched the scene with a mix of disgust and satisfaction. The consultation room, already a furnace, now felt like a cage closing in on Anna. Outside, in the hallway, the murmurs from the waiting room hushed for a second, then roared back louder like a choir of gossip-hungry vultures. "He's my son." "I don't care what that paper says," Anna screamed, her voice so torn it was barely intelligible. Luis, still weak, shifted slightly under the oxygen mask, and she kissed his forehead desperately. "You're mine, my little one. You'll always be mine." Marcos dropped the paper on the desk, running his hands over his face like he wanted to erase what he'd just read. "Lady, listen to me. The DNA doesn't lie. This kid isn't yours. Biologically, he can't be," he said, his tone trying. to stay firm but cracking at the edges. Then your test is wrong. I carried him. I had him in my belly. Anna screeched, pointing at him with a trembling finger. You weren't there. You don't know what I went through. Rosa stepped forward, arms crossed. Enough with the screaming, woman. This isn't a show. The doctor knows what he's saying. If he's not your kid, where'd you get him? Talk straight or you're gonna end up worse. Anna glared at her with fiery eyes, but fear quivered on her face. I didn't get him from anywhere. He's mine, 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 she repeated as if saying it 1,000 times would make it true. But her legs buckled, and she sank back onto the stretcher, hugging Luis so tight it looked like she'd meld him into her. Marcos sighed, glancing at the ceiling like he was begging for patience. Look, lady, I don't want to hurt you, but this is serious. If he's not yours, there's a mother out there looking for him, or something worse. I need you to tell me the truth. The truth is he's my son, Anna snapped, her voice choked with sobs. I had him. I raised him. I took care of him alone. What does a paper matter? No one loves him more than me. That's not enough, Rosa clicked, her tongue shaking her head. If you stole him, confess now and maybe it won't get so ugly, but keep lying and it won't save you. I didn't steal anything, Anna shouted, and the effort made her cough. She wiped her mouth with her sleeve, leaving a smear of sweat and tears. I'm not a thief, I'm a mother. Marcos raised his hands, cutting through the argument. Stop it, both of you. Rosa, get out for a minute. Let me talk to her alone. His tone was sharp, and the nurse shot him a dirty look but obeyed, slamming the door shut. Silence dropped like a slab. All you could hear was the oxygen's hiss and the slow drip of the IV in Luis's vein. Anna rocked the baby gently, murmuring, They're not gonna take you from me, my love. Mommy's here. I'll always be here. But her eyes were locked on Marcos, waiting for the next blow. He stepped closer, sitting on the wobbly chair by the stretcher. Anna, listen to me good, he said, lowering his voice. I'm not your enemy. I want to help the kid and I want to understand what happened. But this result changes everything. If you don't tell me the truth, I can't do anything for you. Anna stared at him, face soaked, lips trembling. The truth is he's my life, she whispered, stroking Luis's cheek. I've got nothing else. My man left me, my family turned their backs. He's all I have. What does it matter where he came from? He's mine now. Marcos frowned, leaning toward her. What do you mean by that? Where he came from? Anna, speak plain. What happened when he was born? She swallowed hard, staring at the floor like the answer was there. I had him at home, she started, voice tiny, alone with no one. It was hard, I almost died. But I had him, and I held him in my arms, and I knew he was mine. And what did he look like? Did he look like this baby? Marcos asked, gesturing softly at Luis. Anna hesitated, pressing her lips tight. He was my baby. I don't remember good. It was dark. I was messed up. But he was mine, she said, and lifted her eyes with defiance. This is my Luis, doctor. Don't look at me like that. I'm not crazy. Marcos took a deep breath, scratching his neck. I'm not saying you're crazy, but something's off. This kid doesn't have your DNA. You get what that means? I don't care about your damn test, Anna screamed, and Luis stirred a little, restless. She hushed her voice quick. He's my son. I love him. Doesn't that count for anything? It counts for a lot, Marco said, a lump in his throat, but the law doesn't see it that way. If he's not yours, someone's got to answer for this. Anna shook her head, like she could shake the words out of her ears. No. Don't take him from me. Please, doctor, you're good. Help me, she begged, reaching a hand toward him. Marcos looked away, uneasy. I'll do what I can for the kid, but I can't hide this. Rosa's already itching to call the cops, and if she doesn't, someone else will. No, Anna screeched, and the scream woke Luis, who let out a feeble cry. She rocked him fast, crying with him. "Shh, my little one, shh. It's okay, Mummy's here." The door creaked open again, and Rosa poked her head in. "Doctor, the folks outside are making a ruckus. They want to know what's up with this nutcase. What do I do?" Marcos growled, standing up. "Tell him to cool off and go home. This isn't a circus." Rosa nodded and ducked out, but the shouts from the hallway kept leaking in. "Lock her up already," a woman yelled. "Poor kid, she must have snatched him," a man barked. Anna gritted her teeth, dying to storm out and face them all. "They don't know anything about me," she hissed, glaring at the door. Then she turned to Marcos. "Doctor, don't let them take him. I'm begging you." He sighed, running, his hands through his hair. "I'll talk to Rosa. Stay here and don't do anything stupid." He bolted out, leaving Anna alone with Luis and a fear that gnawed at her insides. She sat staring at the baby, running her fingers over his thin little hand. "You're my son, my little one, no matter what they say," she whispered, kissing his forehead. But the doctor's words and the shouts outside weighed on her like stones, and for the first time a shadow of doubt crept into her mind. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Luis kept breathing with the oxygen, the IV dripping slow, but his pale face didn't improve much. Anna didn't move, didn't ask for food or water, though hunger twisted her stomach. She just watched her baby, like watching him kept him alive. Then Marcos came back, face grimmer than ever. "Anna, we need to talk," he said, shutting the door behind him. "What now?" she asked, heart in her throat. He sat again, staring at her hard. Rosa called the lab again. They confirmed everything. The DNA doesn't lie. This kid isn't yours. And there's more. The police are on their way. Anna felt the air drain out of her. "The police? No, I didn't do anything wrong," she screamed, leaping up with Luis in her arms. "I just took care of him. I love him." "I know you love him," Marcos said, voice heavy, "but the law doesn't see that. If he's not yours, someone's got to explain it. Tell me the truth, Anna. Where'd this baby come from?" She stared at him, eyes brimming with tears and terror. For a second, her lips quivered, like she might say something. Then, all at once, she broke. "My baby was born dead," she blurted, and the sobs bent her double. "I held him in my arms, but he didn't cry, didn't breathe. I went crazy, doctor. I couldn't let him go." Marcos froze, mouth half open. What are you saying?" Anna lifted her gaze, face drenched. "I went out. To the street, I don't know how. I left him at home. I couldn't look at him anymore. And then I found him," she said, pointing at Luis. "He was in a dumpster, all alone, wrapped in a bag. Someone left him there to die. I took him, doctor. I made him mine. I couldn't leave him too." The silence hit like a punch. Marco stared at her, eyes wide with pure shock. "Anna, you found this kid abandoned?" "Yes," she screamed, sobbing. "I saved him. I love him like he's mine. Doesn't that mean anything?" Marco stood, running his hands over his face. "Damn, this is a mess," he muttered. "Anna, I get the pain, but what you did, that's kidnapping. The law won't forgive this. I don't care about the law," she screeched. "He's my son now. Don't take him from me, please." Before Marcos could answer, the door burst open. 2 cops stormed in, one skinny and young, the other fat with a mean face. Rosa trailed behind, pointing at Anna like she was a prize. "There she is, officers. That's the one with the kid." "What? No!" Anna screamed, backing against the wall with Luis in her arms. "Don't touch me. Don't take him from me." The fat cop stepped up, hand on his hip. "Lady, put the kid down and come with us. Don't make this harder." "He's my son," Anna shrieked, and Luis's cries mixed with hers, weak but heartbreaking. Don't rip him away, please. Marcos raised his hand, stepping between them. Hold on, officers. The kid's sick, he needs care, don't move him yet. The kid's coming with us, the fat one growled. And her too. We've got the report. This is cut and dry. No, Anna screamed and lunged for the door, but the young cop grabbed her arm, firm but not rough. Let me go. He's my baby, she wailed as the fat one yanked Luis from her arms. Anna's sobs and Luis's whimpers filled the room, a sound that cut to the bone. She thrashed, kicking and screaming, while the young cop cuffed her. Don't take him. Luis, my Luis, she sobbed, collapsing to her knees. Marcos watched, fists clenched, eyes red. Be careful with the kid, he's weak, he yelled, but the cops were already heading out, one with Luis wrapped in a sheet, the other dragging Anna. My son, my little one, she cried as they hauled her into the hallway. The people in the waiting room stared, some with pity, some with scorn. Don't leave him alone, please, was the last thing heard before the clinic door slammed shut behind her. The air in the police station smelled of sweat and fear. Anna sat on a hard chair, hands cuffed behind her back, head bowed. Tears had left dirty streaks on her face, and her old t-shirt was soaked with sweat and crying. Across from her, the fat cop scribbled in a notebook, grunting now and then like the pencil weighed a ton. The skinny young one stood nearby, scrolling on his phone with a bored look. In a corner, Luis whimpered weakly, wrapped in an old sheet on a table. Every little cry from the baby stabbed Anna's chest like a knife. Please let me see him, she begged, lifting her head. Her voice was a broken thread, worn out from screaming. He's sick. He needs fluids, oxygen. Don't leave him like that. The fat cop didn't even glance up. Shut up, lady. You've caused enough trouble, he snapped, not lifting the pencil. He's my son, Anna shrieked, yanking at the cuffs till the metal bit into her wrists. Don't take him from me, please. I love him, the young one sighed, pocketing his phone. We've heard that 1,000 times. The doctor said he's not yours, and DNA doesn't lie. Better tell the truth and get this over with. Anna shook her head, eyes wild. The truth is, I saved him. I found him dumped all alone. Someone left him to die. Doesn't that mean anything? The fat cop finally looked up, one eyebrow raised. So you admit he's not yours? You just picked him off the street like a stray dog. Not like a dog, Anna screamed, her voice trembling with rage. Like a son. I made him mine because no one else wanted him. I raised him, cared for him, loved him. Cute story, the fat one grunted, jotting something down. But that's called kidnapping, lady. And that's why you're going to jail. Anai crumpled, head dropping to her chest. I didn't do anything wrong. I just loved him, she sobbed, tears hitting the dirty floor. Luis cried louder, a weak wail that cut through the air. Anna snapped her head up. Listen, he's bad off. He needs a doctor. Please, don't leave him like this. The young cop walked over to the table, eyeing the baby with a clueless face. He does look off, boss. Breathing funny, he said, scratching his neck. Let the jail doctor check him when we get there, the fat one muttered, shutting the notebook. All right, get up, lady. We're moving. Where? What are you doing with my baby? Anna shrieked as the young one grabbed her arm and hauled her up. You to court, the kid to an orphanage. End of story, the fat one said, heaving himself to his feet with a groan. No, don't take him from me, Anna screamed, twisting like a madwoman. Luis, my Luis, don't leave him alone. But the cops didn't listen. The young one dragged her down the hall, while the fat one carried Luis like a sack. Anna's sobs and the baby's cries mingled, an echo bouncing off the grey walls until they shoved them into an old van and vanished into the night. The courthouse was an ugly building, walls stained, stinking of dampness that stuck in your nose. Anna sat on a hard bench, still cuffed, staring blankly ahead. It'd been 2 days since the clinic, and she hadn't slept or eaten anything but a dry piece of bread they'd given her in the cell. In front of her, an old judge with a tired face flipped through papers while a young lawyer in a cheap suit tapped his fingers on the table. "Ms. Torres, the case is clear," the judge said, voice raspy. "The child isn't your biological son. You took him without permission. That's kidnapping, and the law doesn't forgive it." Anna lifted, her head, eyes red and sunken. "I didn't steal him. I found him abandoned. I saved him," she screamed, voice cracking. The judge sighed, adjusting his glasses. "I get that you love him, but you can't keep a kid that's not yours. There are rules, lady." "Rules that kill," Anna screeched, leaning forward. "They left him in a dumpster. If I hadn't taken him, he'd be dead. Doesn't that matter?" The lawyer cleared his throat, standing up. "Your Honor, my client acted out of desperation. She lost her own baby at birth. She was in shock. She didn't mean harm. Intent or not, she did it." The judge cut in, sharp. "And there's consequences. Anything else to say, Ms. Torres?" Anna stared at him, tears falling again. "I just want my baby," she whispered. "Luis is my life. Without him, I'm nothing. Please don't take him from me forever." The judge looked down, drumming his fingers on the desk. "I'm sorry, but the law is the law. For kidnapping, I sentence you to 3 years in prison. The child will be sent to a state orphanage. Case closed." He banged the gavel, and the sound hit Anna like a sledgehammer. "No!" she screamed, leaping up. "Don't take him! Luis! My Luis!" 2 guards grabbed her arms, and she thrashed, kicking and crying. "Let me stay with him, please!" But they dragged her out, while the lawyer shook his head and the judge signed the papers. In the hallway, Anna slumped against the wall, sobbing until she ran out of air. The prison was a hell of concrete and bars. Anna sat in a small cell on a hard cot, with a dirty window that barely let light through. She'd been there a week, and every day was a knot in her soul. She knew nothing about Luis, and the silence was driving her mad. The other inmates eyed her, some with pity, some with scorn. "The baby crazy lady," they called her, and she didn't say a word, just sat on the cot staring at the wall. "You still crying over that kid?" a skinny inmate with arm tattoos asked, sweeping the hallway. "Let it go, woman. He's not yours." Anna looked at her with empty eyes. "He's my son," she murmured, voice worn thin. "He'll always be my son." The skinny one laughed, dry. "Well, your son's in an orphanage, and you're here. That's life." Anna didn't answer. She hugged her knees, burying her face in them. "Luis, my little one," she whispered like a chant. Every night she dreamed of him, his pale face and weak whimpers. She woke up screaming, and the guards told her to shut up or they'd throw her in solitary. One day, while scrubbing the cafeteria floor, a fat guard waddled over. "Torres, you've got a visitor," she grunted, pointing to the exit. Anna dropped the rag and stood, heart pounding. "Who is it? Do they know anything about my baby?" she asked, voice shaking. "Dunno, they don't pay me to gossip. Let's go," the guard snapped, leading her down a long hall to a room with metal tables. There was Dr. Marcos, sitting with a tired face and a folder in his hands. He wore a wrinkled shirt, dark circles marking his face like he hadn't slept in days. Anna rushed over, nearly tripping over the cuffs on her ankles. "Doctor, where's Luis? Is he okay?" she shrieked, plopping down across from him. Marcos looked up, eyes heavy. "Anna, calm down. I came to talk about that," he said, voice low. "Tell me, please don't keep me like this," she begged, leaning so far she almost hit the table with her forehead. He sighed, opening the folder. "Luis is in a state orphanage, a few hours from here. I took him there myself after they took him from you. Wanted to make sure he was okay." Anna swallowed hard, hands trembling. "And how is he? Did he get better?" Are they taking care of him? Marcos hesitated, scratching his neck. He's alive, but not good. The fever went down some, but he's still weak. The orphanage doesn't have much, Anna. Too many kids, not enough staff. They give him the basics, but it's not enough. No, Anna screamed, slamming her cuffed hands on the table. My baby needs more. Oxygen, fluids, a doctor. Don't let him die, doctor, please. I'm doing what I can, Marcos said, voice tight. I saw him yesterday. Took him antibiotics from my own pocket, but I can't be there all the time. Anna stared at him, tears spilling again. You saw him. Does he miss me? Does he know I'm his mom? Marcos looked away, uneasy. He's a baby, Anna. He doesn't understand. But he's alone. That I know. He cries a lot, and there's no one to comfort him like you did. Those words were a dagger. Anna doubled over, sobbing with her face against the table. My little one, my Luis, I can't leave him like that, she screamed, the echo bouncing off the walls. Marcos leaned toward her, lowering his voice. Anna, listen to me. I can't get you out of here. I can't change the sentence. But I came because I can't get this out of my head. What you did was wrong, but what happened to that kid is too. She lifted her head, eyes red. What do you mean, doctor? I mean, I'm not going to leave him abandoned, Marcos said, a lump in his throat. I can't promise much, but I'll try to look after him, visit him, bring him stuff. I don't want him dying in there. Anna looked at him, a spark of hope on her face. Yes, doctor, please take care of him for me. Don't leave him alone, she begged, reaching toward him, though the cuffs stopped her. Marcos nodded, slow. I'll try. But you've got to be strong here. 3 years isn't forever. 3 years without my baby is death, Anna screeched, tears flooding back. Tell him I love him, doctor. That his mommy loves him with all her soul. I will, Marcos mumbled, though he knew Luis wouldn't get it. He stood, closing the folder. I've got to go, Anna. Take care. Wait, she screamed, jumping up. Promise me you won't leave him alone. Promise me, doctor. Marcos looked at her a second, eyes glistening. I promise, he said, voice steady though it shook a little. Then he turned and left, leaving Anna alone in the room. She stood there, staring at the closed door. Luis, my Luis, she whispered, and a tear hit the dirty floor. Outside, through the grimy window, the sky was gray, and the silence was so heavy it crushed. The orphanage was an old building on the city's edge, walls peeling, a dirt yard baked dry. Marcos drove his beat-up car there, Anna silent in the passenger seat, staring out the window like the world was a broken dream. When they arrived, he talked to a skinny social worker who greeted them with a sour face. I want to see Luis, Anna said, voice steady though her body shook. The woman frowned, eyeing Marcos. And who's this? A friend of mine. She just wants to see him for a bit. I'll vouch for her, he said, tone serious. The worker grumbled, but let them through. 5 minutes, no drama, she snapped, pointing down a dark hallway. Anna walked fast, almost running, with Marcos behind. They stepped into a big room full of cots and scrawny kids playing with broken toys. The stench of stale food and dirty diapers hit hard. Anna scanned the place, heart in her mouth, until she saw him. Luis, sitting in a corner, legs twisted, eyes blank. He was bigger, but still pale, with fine hair and gray eyes that weren't like hers. Luis, my little one, Anna cried, racing to him. She dropped to her knees, hugging him tight. The boy didn't react much, just looked at her with confused eyes, but she didn't let go. It's me, my love. Mommy's here. Marcos stepped up, hands in his pockets. Anna, he doesn't recognize you. He doesn't understand. He does! She shrieked, kissing his face. He's my son! He feels me! Right, my little one? But Luis just blinked, hands limp in his lap. The social worker appeared at the door, arms crossed. "All right, lady, time's up. Get out." "No!" Anna screamed, squeezing Luis harder. "Don't take him from me again, please." Marcos grabbed her arm, gentle but firm. "Anna, come on. Don't make this harder." "I don't want to leave him," she sobbed, as the worker and a guard started closing in. "Luis, my Luis." The boy looked at her, and for a split second raised a hand like he might touch her. But the guard hoisted her off the floor, and Anna thrashed, screaming, till her voice broke. "Don't leave him alone, he's my son." Marcos pulled her out to the yard, eyes red. "I'm sorry, Anna. I can't do more," he muttered, as she collapsed in the dirt, crying with her face in the ground. Days later, Anna sat in a park near the orphanage, holding a water bottle someone had given her. She had nowhere to go, but didn't move from there, staring at the building's gate like she could see Luis through it. Marcos showed up after a while with a bag of bread and a face that said he hadn't slept. "Brought you something," he said, sitting beside her. "You've got to eat, Anna." She shook her head, eyes fixed on the orphanage. "I don't want food. I want my baby." Marcos sighed, setting the bag on the bench. "Anna, listen to me. Luis is alive because of you. You saved him from that dumpster. That doesn't go away. But he's not with me," she whispered, a tear falling. "I couldn't take care of him." "You took care of him as much as you could," he said, voice low. "And me? I'll keep going to the orphanage. I won't leave him alone. I promised you, and I'm keeping it." Anna looked at him, eyes empty but grateful. "Thank you, doctor. You're the only good thing I've got left." He smiled, barely with a lump in his throat. "You did something good too, Anna. Even if it hurts." She nodded, slow, and turned back to the orphanage. "Luis, my Luis," she murmured, and the wind carried her words away like an echo that'd never fade. 3 years had passed since that night at the clinic, but for Anna, every day in prison was an eternity. The grey walls of her cell were scratched with marks she'd made herself, counting the days with her nails until they broke. Now, with more grey in her hair and her face thinner, she stood in front of the main gate, a plastic bag in hand, holding the little they'd given her when she got out, an old t-shirt, a broken comb, and a paper with the social worker's number. The morning sun blazed hard, and she squinted, breathing free air for the first time in forever. "Where you going now, Torres?" asked the fat guard who'd escorted her, tone bored. Anna looked at her, eyes sunken but bright. "To find my son," she said, voice firm though it quivered a bit. The guard laughed, dry. "That kid's not yours, crazy. They've told you 1,000 times. Go live your life and stop messing around." "He's my son," Anna murmured, more to herself than the guard. She turned and started walking down the dusty street, heart pounding. She had no money, no home, but she had a name in her head. Dr. Marcos. He'd promised to look after Luis, and she'd find him even if she had to crawl. The hospital where Marcos worked now was bigger than the old clinic, but just as chaotic. It was in a nearby city, and Anna got there after hitching rides and walking under the sun till her feet bled. She stepped into the building, clothes dirty, hair plastered to her face, ignoring the stares from the people in the waiting room. She went straight to the counter, where a young receptionist tapped on a cell phone. "I'm looking for Dr. Marcos," Anna said, voice hoarse from thirst. "Please tell me where he is." The girl looked up, frowning. "You got an appointment? You a patient?" "No, but he knows me. I'm Anna Torres. It's urgent," she insisted, pressing her hands on the counter. The receptionist hesitated, but something in Anna's desperate eyes made her give in. "Wait there," she said, pointing to some chairs. She grabbed a phone and dialed. "Doctor, there's a woman here who says she knows you. Anna Torres. Should I send her in?" Anna sat, legs shaking. She stared at the hallway door like her life depended on what came through it, and then she saw him, Marcos in the same faded white coat, but with more gray hair and a face that looked like it carried the world's weight. He recognized her instantly, and his eyes widened. "Anna, when'd you get out?" he asked, hurrying over. "Today," she said, standing with effort. "Doctor, where's Luis? Is he okay? Tell me, please." Marcos sighed, running a hand over his face. "Come, sit a minute, we've got to talk," he said, pointing to a chair off to the side. Anna followed, heart in her throat. "Don't tell me bad things, doctor. I can't take it anymore," she whispered, sitting with her hands clenched. He sat beside her, looking at her with a mix of pity and guilt. "Anna, I did what I could. I promised you and I tried. But it wasn't easy. Where's my baby?" she shrieked, leaning toward him. "Tell me now." Marcos dropped his gaze, breathing deep. "Luis is still at the state orphanage. No one adopted him. He's a weak kid, Anna. The infection he had, it left him with problems. He doesn't walk right, doesn't talk. People looking for kids don't want one like that." Anna felt the air drain out of her. "No, not my little one." "Is he still sick?" she sobbed, covering her mouth with her hands. "Not sick like before," Marcos said quick, "but he's not like other kids. I visited him as much as I could, brought him meds, food, got other doctors to check him. But the orphanage, it's not a good place. Too many kids, not enough money. He's alive, Anna, but he's not okay." She stared at him, tears gushing. "Take me to him. Now, doctor, I want to see him." Marcos hesitated, scratching his neck. "It's not that simple. They won't let you in just like that. You're his... Well, legally, you're nothing to him." "I'm his mom," Anna screamed, jumping up. "I don't care about the law. Take me, please." He looked at her a second, eyes shining. "All right, let's go, but don't do anything crazy, Anna. I don't want you back in jail."